Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I'm sitting here at Shorefront Legacy with Dino Robinson, creator of Shorefront Legacy. And many of you are familiar with what's been going on with the Family Focus building. I was shocked to see that at the meeting this past Tuesday, it was pretty much empty. And I know that many of us got a lot of responsibilities. We got families, and we can't always make it out to really support something that we really do care about. And it's a lot of people that care about that Family Focus building. And the update is that it's been moved to September for a vote with the City Council. And I really wanted to help get the word out so that, people can make arrangements ahead of time come September for us to show up in droves, in huge numbers. I mean, we saw all the support Harley Clark Mansion gets. I mean, the Lake House organization, they were beasts out there making it happen, rallying up people to show up at City Council. And, I would really love to see that happen for Family Focus. So I know that Alderman, 5th Ward Alderman Robin Ruth Simmons, she gets the word out with the Newsweek her newsletter and information out on the city website. But I think we need to get some more vehicles out there to get that word out, because I don't think everyone really knows exactly what's happening with the Family Focus building. And just sitting here with Dino right now, I learned so much more about, the politics happening behind the Family Focus building. And, I would hate to see that program, that building be demolished or renovated and the program is gone, and then Family Focus loses their funding and all of what's happening. So everybody, let's help and get the word out and show up in numbers in September and make sure that building stands right there where it is in the 5th Ward. So I'm going to turn this around right now to Dino Robinson so that he can really explain how serious this really is. He and I were talking about passion. And one thing about passion is that passion can come and go, and life gets in the way, and you got to move on to the next concern. Dino's one of those people that his passion doesn't seem to die ever. He just stays passionate about a lot of different things here in Evanston and keeping a lot of legacy and history alive here. So let's find out exactly what is going on with the Family Focus building. So I'm going to turn this around to Dino. Hi, Mr. Robinson.
How you doing?
Thank you so much for your time today. We're here at the Shorefront Legacy building, and you got all the archives back there behind you. And tell us what actually happened on Tuesday. People were applauding, but things can take a turn sometimes when we think everything is going well, and then we're disappointed. I have a good feeling that Family Focus is going to be there, but I don't want to look stupid come September. So tell us what's really going on.
So I guess I'll try and break it out into several parts, because some parts are kind of separate from what happened on Tuesday night. So, go back about a year when Family Focus announced that they want to sell the building. And I think what a lot of people got in the community got misconstrued is that Family Focus wants to sell the building, pack up, and leave. That's not the case. They want to be there. They just don't want to own the building anymore. So they want to put it on the market and sell it to a responsible developer to maintain the building, and they just become renters there.
Okay. Let's stop there before we move on. So Family Focus Inc. right now, they're downtown Chicago.
Their corporate headquarters are downtown Chicago.
Are they renting downtown Chicago?
All their locations. They have about 5 to 7 locations throughout the Chicago metropolitan area. All those buildings they lease out.
Okay, so the one building that they actually own
is the one here in Evanston.
So why can't they just move the headquarters here to Evanston to a building you actually own? Aren't we taught that in terms of real estate?
Usually, yeah. But I mean, none of us know, and that could be a board decision on Family Focus Inc.'s part that they want to be in downtown Chicago because that's where quote unquote the action is. The people they have to meet with for funding, all the major foundations are located around that area. So I can understand why they may want to be downtown. But again, on the business side, they own a building. They can occupy the space here and still maintain those relationships and build a good relationship here in Evanston. Right now,
it's a beautiful community.
Yeah, there was when Family Focus how it's structured now. There is an auxiliary board comprised of local people, but they don't have control over or the say of what happens to the building itself. They kind of manage more like daily activities, how we engage the community and things of that nature. Doing some local fundraising, extracting volunteers to work with the building. So that's where that role comes in. But Family Focus Inc.'s, interest here is the maintenance of the building. And, right now they see it as a drain on their finances, and they have to figure out what they're going to do with their finances and remain solvent as an organization. If they go bankrupt, all the programs in the Chicago metropolitan area closes. So they're forced to make a tough decision. It's not that they desire to sell the building. It's just, as a business sense, it's financially feasible for them to sell the building. And I don't think anybody faults them with that. Everybody understands that. And I want to make sure that people understand that they don't want to cease programming at that location. But I think there's some residents that are trying to force them to make a promise that they're going to stay. They can't promise that because let's say if a new landlord buys that building, they may ask for Family Focus to pack up and leave. Family Focus doesn't control that anymore. But that's where a community can come back in and say, how dare you evict Family Focus? We need that service here, and you evicting them is not going to look good on your end. So that's a whole different kind. That's why I want to separate that out as as part of what we were trying to do with the recommendation for preserving the building as a historic landmark. If I can get into that right now.
Yeah, let's get into that.
So when Family Focus had their big community meeting back in, I think it was October, November of 2017, there was some knee-jerk reaction, like, hey, let's start an organization and do X, Y, Z and save the building and then raise money. That's one thing. And there has since then a group did formulate and they're finalizing their paperwork to become a nonprofit, raise funds, and organize and bring interesting ideas to the building to maintain the same services that we have grown to rely on as a community. Various nonprofits had their start at that building, and they want to maintain that same type of synergy with the community and with Family Focus. So I was approached because of community response and community responding to and it's feeding that information to the Fifth Ward Alderman, Alderman Simmons. Alderman Simmons came to me and thought I'd be the best person to write up a request or a proposal in the application for historic preservation. And I agreed to do that, but in understanding on what the expectations are out of this. So I wanted to make sure that the community understood and that Robin understood that doing this doesn't necessarily protect the building indefinitely, but it does put some structure in place where if a developer comes in, they just can't come in, buy the building, and just raise the building at their leisure. They have to go through a process. So this doesn't necessarily protect the building from ever being demolished, but it does put in safeguards in place where they have to go through procedures through the Preservation Council before that can actually happen. They have to make a case why they want to raise it. And not just arbitrary reason, oh, we just want to level and build up these A-frame homes in its place. It has to be a reason. The other thing it does, too, it doesn't prevent a new developer from buying the building and gutting the entire inside and doing something completely on the inside. They have every right to do that, and that's not going to come under scrutiny. What comes under more scrutiny is, let's say, if the contractor wants to add an addition to the building. They can't just throw up any type of structure on top of it. They can't take a one-story area of that building and put up a wood frame structure on top of it with some aluminum siding. That's not going to fly. It has to mirror and be in the same en masse of the building and the same footprint of that building so that it looks like it's part of that building. Even if it's with modern building standards, because the building, it's the age of it and its constant remodels and additions, there are three distinct sections of that building. They have three distinct building modes. You have the original building, the school building, built in 1905. That burnt down in 1959. And a new building in the 1960s type of model and structure for a public school was implemented. The north end of the building is the oldest part of the building that was built in 1925 and 1926. That included the auditorium, the gymnasium, and then an additional building in 1926 that added I think 6 extra classrooms on the end of the building. So that had its own unique look compared to the original, but each tried to mirror parts of some architectural design elements, some consistency, same build qualities, same attention to brickwork, tuck pointing, those type of things that happen. And then bring it to 2010 when the elevator was built. That has a whole different look to it as well, but it's still modern. What they borrowed was the red brick from the old buildings in the 1961 building. It borrowed the window trim and with aluminum windows with the 1961 building. And then it mirrored the shaft itself, had these little concrete blocks that kind of mirrored the glass block that was already inset into the stairwell in the front main entryway. So there was attempts to at least try and mirror and make work the different design styles of its time, but it still stayed within mass of its surrounding neighborhoods. And for a developer to have that, they need to stay within those same frameworks to maintain that building. One of the arguments against preserving the building was that the windows are different from the original windows and are not architecturally significant. Windows can be replaced. Right. And there'll become a time and place where we have to replace those windows again. And you can adjust that and say, hey, look, let's try and mirror what happened, what the windows used to look like and, when it was first built, but we use modern standards to that because it's more of a commercial building. So there's some leeway and some flexibility as long as there's some thought that's given to it. You're not just slapping up vinyl windows and hoping for the best. You're trying to use appropriate materials that help maintain the integrity of the building. So the application that I applied for preservation was in 2 parts. Part A had 10 points, and in that 10 points, I had to at least prove 1 of the 10. I was able to prove 3 of the 10. And Part B was more on the architectural side, and there are 4 points in there you have to cover and make the case for it. And at times, that can actually be subjective. So my argument for its significance was the opposite of what Family Focus's report was against it being architecturally significant. Overall, I'm just glossing it over. We said it's all significant because of the different time periods. They said it's insignificant because it's not related to the original building. In the end, the Preservation Council sided with, especially with the strong Part A part of our report of its historical significance in 2 ways. The building itself was significant in race relations in Evanston. It really showed how a community became a segregated community, and that's important to the history of Evanston, and that's one of the criterias in Part A. It also it fulfilled if there was an important person or persons or groups that came out of that facility. And of course, with the history of Foster School and King Lab and then Family Focus, you have multiple generations of people that went on to do some fantastic things in life. And I labeled out a few of them. Junior Mance, the jazz musician who produced 40 albums. He's been inducted to the Jazz Hall of Fame in 1997. He came out of Foster School. You had Joseph Hill, who became school district superintendent of School District 75, but he went to that school, taught at that school, became principal of that school, and has transitioned to King Lab, and then became superintendent. So that's significant. You had Italy Sutton, who had a publishing company, but her specialty was linguistics. So she taught counsel kids with speech therapy. You had Fred Hutcherson, who's a self-taught aviator who flew with the Royal Canadian Air Force, ferried planes across the Atlantic Ocean, possibly becoming the third African American to navigate across the Atlantic Ocean. He later teach Tuskegee Airmen how to fly. He tried to start an airport in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He was the first pilot for South American Airlines. He was a first African American pilot for British Airlines, and he also ran his own charter airline services through O'Hare and Midway and Meigs Field. So a significant person. And then even bring up to modern day, those who love watching Queen Sugar on the station OWN, the Aunt Vi, who plays as a character there, she is a product of Foster School. She started acting on stage at Foster School. And now here she is. You know, in 1980, she was nominated for a Golden Globe. She's appeared in dozens of movies, one with Clint Eastwood named Blood Work. She was in another movie, I think it was South Central. She was in that movie, just to name a few. But she's also a writer, a self-help guru, and starring Queen Sugar. So I was able to exemplify all those. And I said there's hundreds more that are like that who have come through Evanston. So that fulfilled those criteria in a very strong way to support that application. And that's what I argued with the support once the first time in May and then again last Tuesday.
Okay, so Tuesday, people walked out very happy, but we're like, don't get excited till September. Don't get too excited.
Processes take a while. Yeah. So what happened Tuesday night after both of our arguments and deliberation, the council had to discuss key points in terms of its validity. The end vote had to were in two parts. One, to recommend this to City Council as a building worth preservation for its history, which was voted unanimously yes. The second part of it is that they have to write up the criteria in a reasonable form where City Council could follow and approve that or disapprove or ask more questions. So what could happen once it goes back? Well, the letter, when it comes back, once the staff writes that, the synopsis, then the Preservation Council has to approve it to push it on to City Council. Hopefully that will happen in September because they're not meeting in August. Since City Council meets twice in September, it may meet the last meeting in September. If not, it might spill over to the first week of October, but it has to get on the agenda. City Council, it's up to them. I mean, they might have questions, and if they have questions, they might want to push it, ask these questions and push it back to the Preservation Council. If there are no questions, they may vote on and say, yes, let's move forward with this. And then the building becomes a landmark because of its history. So an important aspect of that. Now, with Tuesday, they did also vote that there are no more public comments with this. We satisfied that already. That's why they're recommending that. So I cannot add to the report. Family Focus cannot add to their report, and they're not accepting any more public comment. But public comment can come at City Council.
Yes.
Okay, and so as they're doing that, if we know it's on the agenda and it's there, it's good to show in mass to show strong support. You don't have to come with T-shirts and signs and picking signs and chanting, "Save this building." It's the show in mass, just a mere example of just showing in mass.
How important it is.
And having a few key people at public comment speaking for the entire masses there. Like, here we are in mass. Sorry the cameras can't pan behind there, but we're filling up the galley and out in the hallways. We're here in support of this building being a historic landmark. That is powerful.
Yes, it is.
So hopefully, when that word gets out, that, our aldermen will spread the word, interest groups will spread the word, but just show up. You don't have to say anything, just show up. I will be there.
I'll be there.
I will be there for the sake of, in case there are any questions, at least a representative that understands the application that I submitted can explain and clarify things in detail, or just to be there on hand just in case there's anything. It is up to us as a community to talk, not just to our aldermen, but any of the aldermen, to ask them what their thoughts are about that and why it's important. Use your emotions about how it impacted your life, how it impacted community life. You can use a, multi-generational. My family went there, I went there at its different stages in its existence as Foster School, as King Lab, as family focused, and how that building, its structure, became the anchor of a neighborhood to keep a unified neighborhood together.
Well, thank you for shedding some light on this. I don't think people were as informed about what was really taking place. I think, some people thought Tuesday, oh, it's a done deal, we're good. No.
It's never a done deal until it's actually approved by city council.
Right, so it's stamped in writing. And then also just understanding that really it's putting an extra step or two for a contractor who comes in,
So it shouldn't scare. It really, ideally, should not scare. I think, potential buyers see historic preservation and they run from it like, oh my God, there's gonna be so many loopholes.
Right.
I really want to be clear with the future developers who are interested in our property. That is not the impetus of this. The greater goal for this community, and this really dates back multiple decades, of a dream to create a historic area. The first attempt was with Alderman Elvin B. Jourdain Jr. in the 30s to recognize the significance of the historically black community. It carried over with the group Pitch, Preserving Integrity Through Culture and History, developed a report that was presented to the Preservation Council in the late 1990s, I think 2000, but for some reason it was tabled. But that report is still there, so I'm trying to revive that report to build a case for a conservation district with the family focus, Foster School, King Lab, whatever you call that structure at 2010 Dewey, the anchor of a preservation district.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dino, for all your work. You put in some sleepless nights, I'm sure.
Yeah, the running joke is I don't sleep.
I don't see how you do. That was a lot of work. So thank you so much you pretty much spearheaded. If it wasn't for you.
Well, it's based on a lot of things that were done already in the past. And I was able to resurrect some of that, bring in some of the players that were involved in the pitch effort to help clarify things for me, to make sure I was on the right point and the right track. But it's their work too that helped lead the case and setting the foundation to create a historic district, or not necessarily historic, a conservation district. I was trying to make sure I'm using the words correctly.
Right.
Conservation district, because it's not about solely on architecture. It's about the content of the history of people living in this specific area.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for all your work, and I'm hoping that we can get the people out in September or October, whatever date is set, and let City Council know how important that building is to the community, the history, and all the great people that have come out of that building. So thank you so much, and let's get the word out.
Yes.
Let's get the word out. All right.